The third stimulus checks could be coming soon. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the House will take up the Senate's version of Biden's nearly $2 trillion relief package by Wednesday. The growing crisis at the border. The Department of Homeland Security is asking for help as President Biden denies there is a crisis. And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo now facing calls for impeachment amid dual scandals. Michigan's governor also feeling the heat over similar nursing home scandals in her state. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Some headlines. An update on President Biden's nearly $2 trillion relief package. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the House will take up the Senate's version by Wednesday. It's the only virus relief bill to pass without any Republican support. If the House approves it, it will make its way to Biden's desk to be signed into law. Tax experts say once Biden signs it, the government should be able to send out the $1,400 checks almost immediately. So who's eligible for the checks? Those earning up to $75,000 or married couples earning up to $150,000. But what if you earn more than that? The cutoff is at $80,000 for individuals and $160,000 for married couples. Some might see direct payments as soon as this week. One vast undertaking is the child tax credit. Biden's bill increases it by $1,000. It's now at $3,000 per child. Taxpayers with children 17 or under would get monthly payments. All taxpayer families earning under $200,000 can claim the full credit. But tax expert Nina Olson says figuring out whether the children actually live with their parents could hold up those payments. Now let's talk about the growing border crisis. The Department of Homeland Security is asking staff to assist Customs and Border Protection with an overwhelming surge of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border. DHS Secretary Alejandro Meier sends the request as President Biden denies there is a crisis. Meier sent an email to his staff asking them to assist at the border. Several news outlets say they have a copy. Meier says, quote, "You have likely seen the news about the overwhelming numbers of migrants seeking access to this country along the southwest border." It is called the Volunteer Force. Mayorkas notes a similar tactic was implemented in 2019 during the border crisis in the spring and summer. The Trump administration put in a number of policies in place to deal with the situation. While some have criticized Trump's policies as harsh, the number of migrants crossing over did go down dramatically. On his first day in office, Biden signed executive orders reversing several of the Trump administration's immigration policies. He says he wants to legalize 11 million illegal immigrants. Experts say Biden's immigration policies are attracting migrants and fueling a crisis. Biden says there isn't a crisis at the border. He says, quote, "We will be able to handle it." Former ICE or ICE Director Thomas Homans has Biden made the whole country a sanctuary jurisdiction. He says migrants know they won't be deported if they can get across the border. Border Patrol reports nearly 80% more incidents over the same time last year. And a sheriff in Texas claims the Biden administration is doing something that's never been done before in U.S. history. It is contacting asylum seekers who have been rejected and encouraging them to reapply. According to Texas Sheriff A.J. Louderback, the U.S. southern border is more open now than ever in U.S. history. He says this is the first time in U.S. history when a federal government has gone back to rejected asylee applicants and is reaching out to them to bring them back to the U.S. to reapply. Louderback is the sheriff for Jackson County. It's on a main migrant route from Central America through the Rio Grande Valley and into Houston. He said of the last 2 years when Trump was in office, the border was more secure than it had been in half a century, partly because of Trump's Remain in Mexico program. But Louderback says Biden completely changed that and is letting migrants into the country, whether they are seeking asylum or not. The sheriff says for the last 3 weeks, over 1,000 people a day are coming across the Rio Grande Valley into the country. And he says the migrants have to pay the Gulf Cartel $250 to get to the border. Louderback does the math, saying it's $250,000 a day that goes towards funding these cartel for future violence. Louderback says Americans should be concerned about this, and a public outcry can help bring about a resolution. Texas is sending National Guard troops to the border to stop smuggling operations. Texas Representative Dan Crenshaw recently visited the border. He says there is a huge spike in migrants, and he says the situation is unstable. Texas Governor Greg Abbott launched a program on Saturday that would deploy state National Guard troops to secure the border. The effort is called Operation Lone Star and would work alongside the state's Department of Public Safety, deploy air, ground, marine, and tactical assets to the border. The goal is to prevent Mexican criminal organizations from smuggling drugs and people into the state. Abbott commented to media outlets about it on Saturday. He said Texas supports legal immigration but will not be an accomplice to the open border policies that cause, rather than prevent, a humanitarian crisis in our state and endanger the lives of Texans. But Texas isn't the only body taking action to secure the border. A group of Republican lawmakers in Washington are urging Biden to officially recognize the severity of the crisis. They are asking him to reinstate Trump's national emergency surrounding the border crisis. This comes weeks after Biden stopped Trump's national emergency that had been in place for 2 years. Their report warns that over 100,000 unaccompanied children could cross the border this year, and that they will travel amongst human traffickers and drug smugglers to get here. The White House did not respond to a request for comment by airtime. And Arizona and Montana are taking legal action to block new Biden administration immigration regulations. The states say they are concerned about these changes. The new rules would limit the capability of ICE to detain some illegal immigrants unless they pose a threat to national security, entered through the border after November 1st, or committed aggravated felonies. The Biden administration says that the rules don't impair arresting or deporting people, but the officers in the field would need to request permission from their superiors to arrest people outside of the aforementioned cases. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich said in a statement, blindly releasing thousands of people, including convicted criminals and those who may be spreading COVID-19 into our state, is both unconscionable and a violation of federal law. This must be stopped now to avoid a dangerous humanitarian crisis for the immigrants and the people of Arizona. Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen joined the lawsuit, saying meth trafficked into Montana by Mexican drug cartels has racked our state. The problem will only be made worse if the Biden administration continues to allow criminals to stay in the country. Adding, enforcing our immigration laws and helping to keep Americans safe is one of the federal government's most important functions. The Biden administration is failing its basic responsibility to Americans. Both filed for a preliminary injunction aiming to block the regulations from going into effect. Now, let's turn to New York, where Governor Andrew Cuomo is now facing an impeachment resolution from the state GOP. Republicans in the New York State Assembly announced an impeachment resolution against Governor Cuomo yesterday. The State Assembly Minority Leader says they believe the time has come, claiming the governor has lost credibility and trust, and that he is unable to lead the state. Cuomo is rocked by a double scandal. In his nursing home scandal, he is accused of underreporting virus deaths in nursing homes. In his sexual harassment scandal, at least 5 women have come forward to accuse Cuomo of behaving inappropriately towards them. Cuomo has vowed not to resign over the 2 scandals. To impeach him, there needs to be a majority vote in the state assembly and a 2/3 majority in the state Senate. And the most powerful New Yorker in Congress, U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, on Sunday said he backed an investigation into sexual harassment allegations against Cuomo. Schumer called the accusations deeply troubling and said he supported an ongoing investigation by New York Attorney General Letitia James. In the latest accusations against the Democratic governor, the Wall Street Journal reported on Saturday that a former aide, Anna Liss, said Cuomo in 2014 sometimes greeted her with a hug and kisses on both cheeks, called her sweetheart, kissed her hand, and asked her if she had a boyfriend. The Washington Post reported on Saturday that a former press aide, Karen Hinton, said that in 2000, Cuomo, when he was federal housing secretary under President Bill Clinton, embraced her intimately in a hotel room after a work event. The new accusations surfaced after 3 women had accused Cuomo of sexually harassing them or making inappropriate remarks. Cuomo has denied any misconduct and pledged to cooperate with a review by James's office. Cuomo, who has rejected calls for his resignation that have come even from some Democratic state lawmakers, has also in recent weeks struggled to respond to accusations that his administration sought to downplay the number of nursing home residents killed by COVID-19. And over in Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer also feeling the heat. A county prosecutor in Michigan, Peter Lucido, says the governor could be facing criminal charges for her handling long-term care patients during the pandemic. He told a local news station Monday he is calling on those who lost loved ones to go back to their nursing homes and try and obtain information about the deaths. This way, they could file a criminal complaint to the police. Whitmer's office issued a statement to the outlet, calling Lucido's comments shameful political attacks based in neither fact or reality. 8 Republican lawmakers in Michigan recently issued letters calling for a full investigation into Governor Whitmer. They argue her regional hub policy in nursing homes resulted in deaths that could have been avoided. Lawmakers say in the letter, Governor Whitmer's regional hub policy placed patients with and without COVID-19 in the same facilities and may have exacerbated the death toll in those facilities. They highlighted the discrepancies in how virus infections and deaths were reported by the nursing homes. For example, if a patient tested positive after transferring to a hospital, some nursing homes added that number, others did not. The lawmakers say they suspect something similar happened when it came to reporting deaths after the transfer. And before we wrap up today, these seem to be polarized times, with all sides pitted against each other. Women versus men, black versus white, rich versus poor. But as Nobel laureate Alexander Solzhenitsyn once wrote, quote, "If only it were all so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deed, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being, and who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart?" But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning into Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.